The man drove the old lady home, but he didn't know how everything would turn out. Dmitri is a simple man, living in a small, peaceful town where the quiet streets and fresh air always bring a sense of tranquility. However, his life was not always filled with that tranquility. Dmitri is a taxi driver, a job he chose not out of passion, but because it was the only way he could earn extra income to support his small family. This job requires him to work at night, which means he has little time for his wife and children, but it is the only way for him to ensure them a stable and fulfilling life. Dmitri loves his job because it gives him a sense of usefulness, but at the same time, he always feels the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He knows that each night ride is an opportunity for him to help others, but at the same time, it is also an indispensable part of taking care of his family. That evening, it rained heavily, and the damp atmosphere enveloped the small town. An evening like any other, but today, something is more special than usual. It rained incessantly, with torrents pouring down, creating small puddles on the road. The surrounding space seemed to be shrouded in a thick fog, making everything appear hazy. The streets were silent, devoid of any people. Only the sound of rain and the engine of Dmitri's car echoed in the dark night. The feeling of loneliness seemed to envelop the entire town, making the atmosphere even more tranquil. The harsh weather conditions, with torrential rain and dense fog, not only created a gloomy atmosphere, but also made everything around become vague and mysterious. It was at that moment that the appearance of an old woman on this quiet road would become an unexpected turning point in Dmitri's life. Dmitri drove his taxi, moving forward on the long, endless road he had traveled thousands of times. Although he was used to stormy nights, today he felt something unusual. This feeling cannot be explained by reason. It is just a vague intuition that makes him feel like something is waiting for him ahead. He couldn't explain why, but this feeling made him pay more attention to every detail around him, whether it was the dim street lights or the cold winds blowing through the gaps in the car windows. In the hazy fog and the faint light from the car headlights, Dmitri suddenly saw a small figure standing by the roadside, like a faint glimmer in the gloomy expanse of the night. It was an old woman, wearing a long dark cloak, her headscarf blown away by the wind, revealing her silver hair. She stood there, motionless, as if waiting for something, or perhaps lost in her own thoughts. In the rainy and silent atmosphere, the presence of the old woman was like a strange image, both ethereal and haunting, making it impossible for Dmitri to look away. The old lady seemed in no hurry, but she also didn't appear comfortable. Only the gentle wind stirred her scarf, and the raindrops splashed across her face, creating a scene that was truly quiet yet full of loneliness. This further highlighted her presence in the quiet road, like a sign that something was about to happen. Highlight: the appearance of the old woman amidst the quiet, desolate, and stormy atmosphere creates a dramatically surprising element, like an inexplicable encounter, yet deeply haunting, making Dmitri stop and wonder, is this a coincidence, or is something greater waiting for me? Without thinking much, Dmitri decided to stop the car. Although he knew that he still needed to continue his work, for some reason, his heart felt an invisible force urging him to help the frail old woman. He stepped out of the car in the steady sound of falling rain, carefully opened the car door, and approached the elderly woman. Each step he took seemed to dispel the thick fog and the loneliness surrounding her. As he approached, Dmitri spoke softly, his voice warm and gentle yet full of concern. "Ma'am, do you need any help? If you want to go anywhere, I can take you there." Dmitri's words echoed in the silent space, like a warm breeze amidst the cold rain. He never thought about the possibility of encountering a dangerous situation or bothering the old lady. He simply wanted to help someone in need. Although it was pouring rain and the fog was thick, the sincerity in Dmitri's voice seemed to break down all barriers between the two of them. His gentle gesture was not just an offer of help, but also an act from the heart, clearly demonstrating his kindness. The old lady looked up at Dmitri, her eyes showing signs of fatigue. but also a tenderness, as if she had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Without saying anything more, she gently nodded and quietly walked towards the car. Dimitri's concern is not only expressed through words, but also through his thoughtful gestures and gentleness. That is the highlight of the story, showcasing a person who works not only for money, but also out of kindness and compassion for others. The old lady carefully stepped into the car, sat down in the seat next to the window, and looked outside, where the rain continued to fall, creating long, faint streaks on the car window. Dimitri, after helping her settle in, sat in the driver's seat and started the car. A quiet atmosphere enveloped them, with only the sound of rain gently tapping on the window and the engine's steady hum. It's strange, even though the two have just met, there is a peculiar connection in the air. It feels as if they have known each other for a long time, as if the gap between the two generations no longer matters much. Dimitri glanced at the old lady through the rearview mirror and started a gentle conversation. He didn't know what to say, but simply asked, "Do you live alone? Do you have any children or grandchildren?" The old lady looked out the window for a long time, as if pondering the question. Her fingers gently stroked the scarf around her neck. Then she slowly spoke, her voice soft and calm, as if each word carried deep emotions. "I have been living alone for a long time. My house is very big, but there's no one here with me. My husband passed away many years ago, and my children, they all have their own lives. No one is close. Sometimes they come to visit, but never for long. I don't want to bother them, but perhaps, alone, I still feel lonely." Her words were gentle yet heavy, as if telling a story that could not be fully expressed in words. Dimitri listened, his heart suddenly heavy. He is not an easily moved person, but the old woman's story made him feel a pang of sorrow. Her feelings of loneliness, the years of waiting, the long days passing without anyone to share with, made Dimitri feel a deep compassion. Dimitri did not ask any more questions about her past or personal details. He felt that sometimes questions become unnecessary, especially when a person just needs someone to listen and share their silent thoughts. Each of her words carried an unexpressed sentiment, and sometimes it was the silence that told the biggest story a person could share. On the deserted road, the rain tapped steadily on the car windows like a background score for their wordless conversation. The old lady didn't need to say much for Dimitri to understand what she was feeling. The calmness in her voice seemed to be seeking a resonance in the soul, a gentle understanding that required no explanation. Dimitri didn't need to ask much, for he could see clearly that the loneliness in her heart was so great it couldn't be measured by words. Dimitri just needed to sit next to her, listening to the gentle stories and small confessions she shared. That feeling, both intimate and quiet, made him no longer feel strange with someone he had just met. He realized that sometimes feelings do not need to be expressed too strongly, but only require a full presence and sincere listening. Both of them, although not very familiar with each other, felt as if they understood each other, as if the distances of space and time between them suddenly became blurred. The old lady seemed not to want to bother Dimitri with questions about her private life, and Dimitri also did not feel the need to delve into her past. Instead, he just needed to help her get to where she wanted, quietly sharing space and time, and in that moment, all the turmoil and worries of the outside world seemed to settle down. Only two people remained, a driver and an old lady, sharing a peaceful moment together on a rainy night. The silence between them, although somewhat tranquil, contained countless emotions that words could not express. It was a wordless understanding, a connection from the simplest things in life. Dimitri felt his heart calm, as if he had done something truly good, even if it was just bringing the old lady home safely. And perhaps, in this world, sometimes just presence and kindness are enough. After a long journey, Dimitri finally drove down a narrow road leading to an ancient mansion, nestled deep within the quiet forest. The surrounding atmosphere seemed to be shrouded in a thin layer of mist, making the house even more mysterious and tranquil. The villa, although old, still exudes a luxurious and magnificent beauty, like a castle from a fairy tale. The towering ancient trees create a distinct forest, as if this house is completely separated from the outside world. Dmitri stopped the car in front of the grand gate of the villa, unable to shake off the mysterious aura of this place. In that moment, he felt as if everything that had led to this point had its own reason. The quiet space, the low clouds drifting quickly across the night sky, and the rain calming down created a scene that was both ethereal and peaceful. The old woman looked at the house, her gaze filled with countless memories and emotions that Dmitri could never fully comprehend. She smiled at Dmitri, her eyes filled with sadness, yet shining with deep gratitude. "Thank you, dear," she said, her voice gentle, yet filled with deep emotion. "You are the first person to help me in a long time. Thank you for bringing me here safely. In this weather, not everyone is willing to help someone like me." Dmitri just nodded, not saying anything more, because he understood that sometimes simple words of thanks contain more than can be expressed in words. He looked at the old lady once more, feeling his heart warm, even though they had only met for a short time. But in that moment, perhaps all the simple things like kindness and care were enough to create a strange bond between them. The old lady slowly opened her handbag and took out a small envelope, carefully handing it to Dmitri. "You are very kind," she said in a warm voice. "This is a small token of thanks. Don't refuse. You helped me when I needed it the most." Dmitri was a bit surprised, not understanding why she wanted to give him a gift. He intended to refuse, but when he saw her sincere eyes, he couldn't turn it down. This gift is not just a material object, but a heartfelt expression of gratitude from her. He received the envelope from her hand, feeling an unusual sense of confusion and bewilderment. How could such a simple act be met with such a warm response? He wondered if the old lady had seen something in him that he himself had not yet realized. "I'm just doing what I can, without expecting anything in return," Dmitri said, his voice gentle but unable to hide his surprise. "This is just my job. Helping people is something I am always ready to do." The old lady smiled gently, her eyes softening. "You are a good person," she said. "Therefore, you deserve to receive it. Sometimes, helping others is not just out of duty, but because our heart wants to do so." Dmitri could only nod, feeling something warm rising in his heart. The gift the old lady gave him was not just money. It is the respect, the gratitude that she wants to give you for the small act you have done. Dmitri held the envelope in his hand, but his hand trembled slightly, as if he couldn't believe what was happening. He opened the envelope, a feeling of nausea rising in his chest. When he saw the amount of money inside, he couldn't help but gasp. $10,000, a figure he could never have imagined in his life. That was a whole month of hard work, a month of struggling with long trips, long nights, staying up late, all just to earn enough money to support the family. But now, with just one simple act, he received an unimaginable gift. A feeling of dizziness enveloped him. He couldn't understand. Why did the old lady do this? A stranger, whom he had only helped unconditionally, had given him such a large sum of money. The question kept repeating in his mind. Does the old lady have some deep reason behind this gift? Or is this simply a sincere gesture of gratitude that she wants to convey? Sitting still in the car, Dmitri felt an indescribable confusion. He rubbed his face, as if wanting to dispel the swirling thoughts in his mind. At this moment, the surrounding silence only heightened the tension in his mind. The sound of the rain continued to fall steadily on the car roof, but everything seemed to stop. It was just him and this gift, both quietly lost in thought. He wondered if the old lady saw his help as just a small thing, an action that anyone could do. Or did she see something special in him that he didn't recognize? Hasn't she lived alone for so many years? So, could this gift be her way of seeking some connection with others, some sharing that she couldn't have during all those years of living alone? Dmitri felt something he had never thought of before. There are gifts in life that cannot be measured by money, and there are kindnesses that money cannot explain. He suddenly realized that this gift was not just money. It is gratitude, appreciation, and a reminder that sometimes acts of kindness are never meaningless, no matter how small they may be. Dmitri sat there for a long time, his eyes fixed on the envelope he was holding, deep in thought. He began to understand that in this life, the miracle of kindness cannot always be explained. Perhaps the old lady needed nothing more than a little help. But what she gave him, not just money, but also understanding and sharing that he had never realized, was a miracle in life. Dimitri's thoughts gradually settled down. He felt a sense of tranquility, as if a part of him had been released. He realized that, in this life, sometimes simple things have immense power. The old lady didn't just give him money, she gave him a lesson in kindness, in giving without expecting anything in return. And perhaps it is those very actions that create true miracles in life. Dmitri sat there, still in shock, gripping the envelope tightly, his eyes looking out through the foggy window of the taxi. He intended to turn back to find the old lady, wanting to say another thank you, but when he looked back, all he saw was dense darkness. No one was there, only the dense canopies of ancient trees surrounding the silent mansion. The old lady, who had just been standing next to his car a minute ago, had now disappeared as if she had never been there. No trace, no sound. He frowned, trying to look closely at the surrounding area, but all he felt was a cold and desolate atmosphere. The large house, which once looked very cozy and welcoming when the old lady stepped down, now suddenly became desolate and lonely. The front door was tightly shut, with no lights on, as if this house no longer had anyone living in it. A strange feeling, as if something supernatural was enveloping this place, causing Dimitri's heart to beat faster. He wondered if the old woman was a figure from the past, a spirit come to teach him a lesson about kindness. Or is it simply a coincidence, a meeting full of serendipity? This mysterious feeling made Dmitri feel as if he had just experienced a miraculous moment that could not be explained by reason. But anyway, he couldn't deny that it was precisely the inexplicable things that added beauty to this story. And perhaps the disappearance of the old woman is part of the message she wanted to convey. Dmitri recognized the message of kindness and gratitude. Dmitri sat back in the car, his mind beginning to settle. The gift and the old woman's words still echoed in his mind. He looked at the envelope in his hand, feeling as if his heart was filled with a strange tranquility. The earlier confusion has gradually given way to a gentle, peaceful feeling. He realized that there are things in life that don't need to be explained, and sometimes the things that cannot be explained are the truest values. He suddenly realized something important. Kindness doesn't need a reason or a reward. Sometimes it's simply because we have the ability to help others, and that action, no matter how small, has created a significant change in this world. The old woman's gift was not just money, it was a reminder that sometimes helping others is an indispensable part of life, and gratitude is not always expressed in words, but sometimes in an unexpected, selfless act. This feeling of peace makes Dmitri reflect on his own life. He thought about his family, his wife and children, about the small moments he had forgotten in the busyness of work. He realized that kind actions, no matter how small, can bring about change not only for others, but also for himself. With that thought, Dmitri slowly turned the car around, starting the journey home. But this time, he felt a difference. His heart felt lighter, and his soul seemed to have expanded. He no longer feels stressed or troubled by the inexplicable things. He simply feels that kindness, although not always reciprocated immediately, always exists and brings profound value to life. The story concludes with a profound message about the power of kindness and unconditional love. Even though no words of thanks were spoken, and there was no repayment from the old lady, Dimitri's actions, his sincere, selfless help, were the most valuable. The gift the old lady gave, though material, carried an immeasurable spiritual value. It is not just money, but a confirmation that kindness and sharing among people are the priceless gifts that each of us can give. What is memorable is not that the old lady gave Dmitri a large sum of money, but the way she conveyed the message of love. In life, sometimes we help others not because they ask for it, but simply because we want to help. It is these moments that create an invisible connection between people, and that is the most precious part of kind actions. The truth about kindness is not only about helping others, but also about recognizing the value of that help without expecting anything in return, and sometimes without needing to say it out loud. That is respect, gratitude, without the need for explanation, and those very actions will change our lives in unexpected ways. Because love and kindness always have a way of leaving a mark in each person's heart, and once given, they will always return to us, sometimes in very unexpected forms.